comes down to we want to produce more using less resources. And this is the essential definition of efficiency.
Welcome to the Happy Engineer podcast, the place where we help engineers like you to build your career, balance your life, and be happy. I'm Zach White, former engineer turned lifestyle engineering coach, and your host for the journey to the career and life that you desire. Hey, I believe that you shouldn't have to sacrifice your life to reach your full potential at work. And what we're going to bring you in these conversations and interviews are the strategies, the tools, and the mindsets that are going to allow you to experience both success at work and success at home. Hey, we do the best we can to keep this free from advertisements. Of course, I can't control what YouTube may throw up, but do us a favor and share this podcast with anybody who you think may like it. And don't forget to click the bell and subscribe and get notifications to our YouTube channel and for upcoming releases of the Happy Engineer podcast. I would love your feedback, and even more than that, love your story. Share with us how these strategies and tools are working for you. Would love to be in touch with you. Connect with us on social media. Find me at Oasis of Courage on Instagram, Facebook, or Zach White on LinkedIn. It's an absolute pleasure to serve you. Now let's do this. Welcome back, Happy Engineers. It is awesome to be with you again. And I'm excited for a conversation that's going to look a lot different than some of the episodes you may have heard in the past. I'm here today with Andrea Dallan, who's a CEO, an entrepreneur, an engineer, and he's got an incredible company and a set of experiences in technology, efficiency, sustainability. Really sparked my interest when he reached out and connected with me and wanted to share some of his passion and experience with you all. And Andrea, I can't thank you enough for making time to be with us today.
Thank you very much, Zach. It's a pleasure for me to be with you.
So before we dig deep into the fun, areas of technology and influence that you've written books about and really driving with your company and your focus, take us back a bit to the beginning. I always love to hear the origin story of engineers. What got you excited about engineering in the first place? So what was that for you, Andrea? How did engineering really get its start in your life?
Well, I have I had one example in my family. It was my father, and he actually started the company I'm working in right now as a CEO in 1978 when I was 3 years old. And he graduated in mechanical engineering as well, and looking at him designing machines. So very early on, I understood the possibility to create something that does not exist just through using your brain, your mind, your idea, your ingenuity. It was something that really sparked my interest from very early on. Eventually, so I decided to study engineering when I was at the high school. So I did my mechanical engineering studies, and they also understood that I like foreign languages because we are based in Italy, but our company is working in all Europe and in the States. And so I progressively focused on more on the sales aspect of engineering. So engineering of processes, the efficiency of production processes, and so on. So right now, so it's 22 years that I'm
Wow, yes.
in this business. So it's been a long, very interesting journey from the very first days.
That's amazing. So take me back to Italy. Dad is starting the company. What were those early days like? Was it a quick success? Was it a really difficult journey in terms of getting things off the ground? What were you seeing as a child?
Well, I didn't see my father a lot because he was spending a lot of his time in the company. He used to work before starting the company in one company that produced window frames, door frames, starting from metal coils and using roll forming machines. And he actually fell in love with this production process. And at that time, he was also studying mechanical engineering. He decided to finish his studies by deepening his knowledge in roll forming technique. And he actually wrote at that time, so in the 70s, one program, one algorithm in Fortran 4, which helped him to unwind the flower of the roll formed profile. It's something very technical, but anyway, so he
That's
introduced
awesome.
something.
I haven't heard somebody talk about Fortran 4 in a lot. I mean, I never learned Fortran, but that's really cool. So, I mean, I'm sure the engineering leader listening, some of the folks who were there for those days would like, no, tell us, Andrea, the whole story. We'll skip the detail. But okay, so here he's building a passion around, I can combine my engineering knowledge with this process. And inside of that combination is where the company was born.
That's right. Exactly. Well, I have the source code of the Fortran 4 program of my father in my drawer here. So
that's so cool. Oh, what a neat story.
But that's we will keep it for a museum.
Yeah, but what a great legacy piece for your family. And so Absolutely. You said a statement earlier that really struck me because I love it. It's super true that this idea of creating something from nothing, creating something that does not exist, and that the engineer in you is really drawn to that. Could you just expand on that idea? What is it about creating things from nothing that inspires you?
What inspires me is, and the part that I like the most of my job right now is when one customer, one company, or so one engineer comes to me and they have one problem in their production. And this problem can be manufacturing a new product. And in this case, we have to find out in which way we can build a particular tool or die to manufacture this. But sometimes it's not only technical, it's also how to optimize the process. So over time, in my experience, I have found that the problems that we are facing in manufacturing are always connected with some specific areas, which are they can all be condensed in the terms of efficiency. So it is not just creating something like creating a new product, but this product needs to be created also as efficiently as possible. Optimizing the raw materials, optimizing the use of energy, which today is extremely important, with the right amount of flexibility and in the shortest time. So these are today there is also the aspect of automation, which is extremely important. Today, all companies, especially in Europe and in the US, they have faced difficulties in finding personnel for their productions. So we have these two big trends that we are seeing is that companies in our countries, they want to bring back productions that were earlier, they were manufactured maybe in the Far East or in other countries where the cost of labor was lower. And so they need to bring it back to Europe or to the US, but also we needed to bring them back with the right amount of automation because we have a much higher production cost, labor cost, and also it's difficult to find skilled people in the production. Not only labor is expensive. We see more and more the request for automated processes. And this is, so the challenges we faced in the early days, creating something out of nothing. So when the customer comes to you and says, I need to produce this pen, study one process that creates this. Okay, that was a certain level of challenge. Today, the level of challenge has increased a lot more because they want this pen produced, but with the least amount of scrap, with the least amount of energy, in the shortest time. And they not only want the pen, they want it also packed in carton boxes, piled up and ready for
so much good stuff there. So the engineer in me is coming back to the surface here, like, all right, let's start designing. Andrea, I'm ready. But a lot I want to unpack there
on the table.
Before we get into it though, why don't you take a moment now? I think it's a good time. Just set the stage about the company. Tell us about what you do, the specialization that your company has, just so we can understand the context of really the work that you all do. So tell us about the company.
Yes, okay. I don't know how many of our listeners are familiar with the process of roll forming sheet metal, but let me get one profile. Okay, so this is one metal profile, okay, that is used for creating ceiling T-grids, suspended ceilings that we have in a lot of offices.
And so for anybody who's only hearing the audio, you got to go check out the video on the website if you want to actually see this. But looking at a nice T-shaped roll formed piece of metal here. But keep going.
So in this case, it is this product is composed of two pieces of metal that come out from coils, and they need to be shaped, as you can see, in the form of a T. Not only we need to shape the profile, but we need to create also these special hooks so that these profiles can interconnect with one another. And this is just one of the many examples. So if you look around, sheet metal is everywhere in our houses. It's something that's really pervasive. That is what led the growth of our companies. These products are pretty common and very similar from Europe to the United States, to China, to Australia. So my father started the company working just for Italy, and he was a designer. So that means that he was just designing the rollers. And then over time, after a couple of years, he started producing the first machine. But starting from 1984, 86, he decided that the company could not stay in Italy only, and he started to attend international trade shows in Europe, in the States, Middle East, China. So right now, our company is doing 90% of its business outside of Italy, which is something that I also enjoy a lot because I like traveling. I love traveling.
Just in case anyone listening is like, oh, I'm not into roll forming sheet metal. I don't care. Like, I don't want to pay attention. The engineer, the mechanical engineer in me, Andrea, is like, oh yeah, tell me more about the rollers. Like, I want to, I want to go walk the process with you. But here's what I think is so interesting about you and where this goes and how we want to unpack this, regardless of if you're in computer engineering, if you're in automotive, OEMs or tier ones, you're in suppliers, if you're in aerospace, if you, the comment you made about the pen was so perfect. It's no longer in today's world enough to say, I am an engineer who could create a single solution for how to design and produce a pen, to write a single snippet of code, to design a clutch system for the vehicle. This idea of efficiency and sustainability around how things are made and how you do the design work itself, so regardless of if you're on the manufacturing side or the design side, is such an important conversation. And that's, I just want everybody to know that's really the heart of what makes your organization and Andrea special and the work you've focused on a lot here in the last couple of years. Where was that point in the business where you realized it's not enough anymore to just produce these different designs? We need to get really focused on how efficiently we can make this happen. Like, where was that? Was there something in history that shifted? Was there a time that you really remember saying, wow, we need to change here?
A lot of these requests come from good listening, okay? Being able to enjoy the conversation and being able to listen really, that the customer is not just asking for manufacturing one pen. He's asking to solve a certain set of problems. The problems that we're solving is not just making the pen, it is making the production more efficient. We want to produce more with less resources, in this case, labor. But sometimes they ask to produce this pen using less raw material, or less energy, or less time, or with more flexibility. So everything comes down to, we want to produce more using less resources. And this is the essential definition of efficiency. So how much final result I can get using how many resources in the beginning. So I came down to this definition of efficiency where we have four main dimensions. The first dimension of efficiency is sustainability. it can be producing using less raw material or producing using less energy. Today, both of these aspects are extremely important because the cost of raw material and the cost of energy are exploding.
Yes.
Well, worldwide. So it's not something that's related to Europe only. And so a lot of customers in this period that they are contacting us because they want to produce using less raw material, using thinner material. They want to produce this same product and they want to keep the same profile using thinner material so that they can produce more with less raw material. And when we use less raw material, we get two great results. So this material must not be produced in the first place. And so our production is a lot more sustainable. But because I'm not buying it, I'm also making my production a lot more profitable. So if I produce the same amount of profiles using less raw material and energy, this is what is making right now a huge difference. And it's giving a huge competitive edge to companies that can look beyond producing the pen. So that's the point. The second dimension of efficiency is productivity. I can produce one of these pens per minute, or I can produce 10 pens per minute. So the unit of time that I need to produce this pen is one resource. But when I produce so much more, and I'm thinking of systems that we produce that used to produce at 100 feet per minute, and today they produce at 800 feet per minute. So when you get this huge amount of material, you have a lot more productivity, but you also have to have a lot more automation to deal with this huge volume of products coming out of the machines. I increase the productivity. I need to increase also the level of automation. So these four aspects, sustainability, productivity, automation, and flexibility, these four aspects anyway are the four pillars, and they are strictly connected together. You cannot work on just one of them without having to increase the automation or the efficiency. And this is the kind of concepts that I have taken out. I have written a lot of technical articles in technical magazines. But when in 2020 we had this pandemic starting, I had some weekends to collect all these ideas into the first book, and then the second book. There is a lot more explanation in the books about these four concepts of efficiency, if our listeners want to.
Yeah. So, and just to put that in front of everyone, the first book, The Revolution of Efficiency, published in 2020, and then followed by Andrea's second book, Think Thin, which he gave a great example just a moment ago about bringing these profiles in thinner sheet metals and how his organization specializes in that technology. Just some really interesting places to go explore. So for everybody who wants to geek out on the technology and really get deep on this concept, pick up Andrea's books, and we'll put the links to those in the show notes. But these four pillars: sustainability, productivity, automation, flexibility. What strikes me that's interesting, and part of, again, why I was so excited to just learn from you in this conversation, is that I see this playing out not just in an engineering manufacturing process, but truly it's infinitely scalable. It could be, how do I drive efficiency into areas in my home life, areas in design, areas in manufacturing, in my health, in my relationships? Like, there's a lot of places where you could apply this. And I'm curious, Andrea, as you've built out these frameworks and the concepts, and the playground for that was your company, but how has the pursuit of efficiency changed other areas of your life? Where else do you see this show up?
Well, in the organization of my work, in the organization of my hobbies, the ones that I can still keep using. So if we think of the efficiency, so we want to have a very good, as good as possible work-life balance. But when you have your own company, you know how much passion and effort you need to invest in it. So given that the amount of time is a limited resource, we wanted to make the really best use of it in order to fit in all the things that are really meaningful for us. the time for our family, for my kids, for sport,
Sure.
music. So I have so many projects that I still cannot fit in this schedule.
We all understand that. Are there any
Yeah.
like little places or specific, like where you got a really big win in your life because you're like, oh, I could be more efficient in my personal life in this way? Any little anecdotes or examples that stand out to you?
Well, right now, Zach, I must tell you, my professional life is taking me so much of my
Sure.
of my
Yeah.
own time. Let's put it like this: if I hadn't thought of efficiency in this way, for sure I wouldn't have found the time for putting it down and writing 2 books in 2 years. So that for me has been one unique challenge that has driven out time for me out of my work, out of my family, out of my weekends and nights, and so on. But given the fact that I thought that my schedules were already overbooked because of customers, because of organization, administration, and so on, thinking about efficiency has really given me a great hand to fit in even more and using my time more efficiently. So eliminating a lot of scrap or
Sure.
useless activities, investing them efficiently in writing. I feel that for me, it has been a great win, because writing 2 books in 2 years and having them translated in 5 languages, well, that has been a huge work in addition to what I was doing before. And
No
if I look at
question.
myself
No
a couple of
question.
years ago, I don't know how I have done it.
How did I do it? So tell us this. We got these 4 pillars. You and your organization have built a lot of mastery in this area. When you go into a company, a customer who's interested in applying this, that they want to become more efficient, can you share with us what are the blocks? What are the barriers to efficiency? Maybe it's in their mindset or in a legacy system or something that they don't want to let go of, that has to change if they want to become really get that to that
Exactly.
next revolution. What are those main barriers happen?
The main barrier is resistance to change. That is the number one thing. And the second one is that they cannot see where the problem lies. So where they really are missing some of the value in their production processes. And what I do and what my colleagues here at Dallan do, we start by asking questions, because from the mere email that we receive, they send us a drawing and they want this pen produced in that quantity and so on. And then we start to ask questions about the flexibility, about the size of the production batches, about the amount of material, about the cost that they are having right now for this product. Is it a make or buy decision? So we have a set of questions that helps us to create one framework and helps us to explain what kind of bottlenecks there are in his current process and what could really help him solve. Sometimes when you choose the right process, it's not that you are just scaling up your production in a linear way. You are multiplying times 4, times 5 your production capacity. You are reducing by 20%, by 30% or more the cost for your production. And these are elements that create such a huge competitive advantage that sometimes one company contacts us just because they see their competitor who has already started this process of making their production more efficiently, gaining speed and acquiring more and more companies, acquiring more and more lines, and they feel that they don't understand how they can do that. But the numbers don't lie. So if we have the right information from our customer, from the people who contact us, the main thing is delivering something of real value. Then the outcome of our conversation, it can even be, well, right now, the process that you have is already the most efficient, or my solution may not be the ones that are suitable to achieve your goals. But that is one process that just builds trust. In my experience in these last years, we say a lot more no, we cannot help you, rather than yes, we can help you, because we really want to start a conversation with companies that can become partners to us, to whom we can really deliver value. But we need to help them understand where is the real challenge in making the production efficiently, and also explaining them in numbers how much more efficient they can get. And if we are really good at it, we can drive it down to numbers, so gain per produced unit. And so we can actually make an excellent job, but it's more the job of an advisor rather than the job of a salesman in this case.
This comment, as far as the barriers, that resistance to change is the number one barrier. Earlier we said, hey, this can apply to anything. And that comment probably applies to anything as well when we talk about really having a step function. It's the revolution of efficiency is their book title, not the 1% incremental gain of efficiency.
Right. And that's right.
I hope everybody really hears that and takes away from that. Like, this isn't just about sheet metal and roll forming and Andrea's business. This conversation is really about, if you want to revolutionize an area of your life, your career, or your company, you don't get there by latching on to all the old beliefs, all the old ways. Right. And this resistance to change is the number one barrier. So Andrea, for you, you've been in a lot of organizations, you've helped a lot of people. If you see that the numbers are clear, this will work, we have a solution, like this is the real problem, but the resistance to change, that's the barrier. The individuals or the decision makers aren't there. What's the one or two things that you would do to help someone overcome a personal resistance to change? Or just for the engineering leader listening, if they're struggling with resistance to change, how can we improve ourselves in that area?
Yeah, I've given a lot of thought about that. There is one thing that real life examples can do a lot better than me explaining how much more efficiently we can help you do things. The first book has really been a real challenge because I asked a lot of my customers to answer some questions about how the integration of one specific process has helped them become more profitable through improvement of efficiency. And I didn't expect they would do that because they are basically telling their strategies to other possible competitors, but they were so happy to do that. And they really gave little stories and all of the case studies, all the calculations that they shared with me, all of the procedures that they use for keeping their production efficient are really rare examples, really gifts that they gave to me for writing my book, and that are pearls of experience that are available to anyone who wants to read. And by reading what someone else in their industry is doing, that is what helps them overcome the problem of facing the change. Sometimes you don't have to change the 100% of your activity. There is a set of activities that maybe you change the 20% of your activities, you already get an increase of 80% in your performance. So this is the Pareto law, which I love so much.
So good.
And that I always start analyzing my customers' requests through the Pareto law, and that's they always find it so clear cut, and it's for me confusing that nobody is studying this at school. So it's really incredible. But yes, the real life examples is a lot more efficient in explaining one concept rather than showing them an Excel table with formulas and whatsoever. So,
yeah, great principle to remember in any area. Go collect evidence outside the four walls of your business.
Well said.
Yeah, I love
Absolutely.
that. Man, Andrea, there's so many things I'd love to explore deeper, but I want to be respectful of your time and land the plane here. And one of the things I always ask, and I want to hear your perspective too, is when we're in engineering, solving these problems, becoming more efficient, I really believe great engineering, like great coaching, questions lead and the answers follow. And if we want to get great answers in our lives, we need to ask great questions. So for the engineering leader who's hearing this, they're curious about efficiency in their own life, and they want to experience success and happiness on their career journey and be a CEO one day. And what would be a great question that you would lead them with today?
Well, it is maybe something not so original, but I think that if we constantly ask ourselves where we want to be 5 years from now or 10 years from now, that is something that keeps us towards one higher goal. This is something that I always keep in mind in order to keep track of the medium-term goals and the long-term goals.
I love that. And original or not, Andrea, it is extremely important. And I appreciate you sharing that. Really powerful. So I hope everybody listening asks themselves today, where do I want to be in 5 years and in 10 years? And I love what you said. I just want to repeat it, that it takes strength to not only ask and sit with that question long enough to get clarity on the answer or get the help and support you need to clarify that, but then to take the action today to get what you need to get on track with that. And I think you're super right. So Andrea, I know people are going to want to explore more about who you are, the work you're doing. Maybe someone listening actually really needs your support in their business and they would love to connect with you about that. But just tell us, how can people get connected with you and learn more about you and your organization and what you're doing?
You can connect with me through LinkedIn. You look for Andrea Dallan, and oh, there's not many, so actually. And well, you can find the book, The Revolution of Efficiency, in Kindle version, so in electronic form. And if you need any help or clarification on the concepts of efficiency, I'm here to help. I love to connect more on the general concepts and then start the conversation with our friends, engineers. We are a big family, and helping one another will lead great results for everybody.
Absolutely. So we'll put links to all those places in our show notes. You know where to find those on oasisofcourage.com. And I can't say highly enough, Andrea, the books, the work that his organization does. And I asked a lot of the questions today, but Andrea got where he is in his career and life by being great at listening and asking questions, and he can absolutely help guide you in the right direction. So please take advantage of that. You. And Andrea, thanks again for making time to be with us. This has been awesome.
It's my pleasure, Zach. Okay. Thank you.
Hello, my friend. Zach White here again. And I wanted to let you know that's all we've got for this episode of the Happy Engineer podcast. Thank you so much for investing your time with me today. It is an absolute pleasure to be able to bring you this content. Just as a reminder, it would be amazing if you would subscribe and share this episode with any other engineers you know who may benefit from this. And if you're like me, I hope that you'll take some notes and, more importantly, take action. In our audio version of the podcast on Apple Podcasts and any place that you go to find podcasts, there's a little more content from me about this episode in the debrief. If you really want to hear about how to put this into action, I'd encourage you to go grab that. But thank you for joining us for the video version of our interview today. And again, can't thank you enough for helping us to get the word out about the Happy Engineer podcast and what we're doing. If there's any way we can serve you, would love to do that. Go find us at oasisofcourage.com or reach out to me on social media at Oasis of Courage. And don't forget again to subscribe and click the bell to have notifications of upcoming releases of new episodes of the podcast. As always, I want to leave you with this. If you stay in your comfort zone, you're not going to grow. So let's crush comfort, create courage, and let's do this.